Kawhi Leonard to the Toronto Raptors. Are you not entertained yet? Oh my days. This is greatness. We have seen such a great offseason so far from the LaMelo trade, the Giannis trade, Braun leaving the Lakers, the unction possibly starting in Golden State, and now this Kawhi Leonard trade. Kawhi Leonard is being traded for Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 firsts, a swap, and 2 seconds. That's a fleece. Toronto has, has fleeced them all in all. They snatched their chain. Okay? Clippers, I'm so sorry. This offseason really is, like I said, right, is great. And free agency is starting soon. It's starting in, I think, about like an hour and some minutes, an hour and 15, give or take. And, I would have been on this trade sooner, but I was working. Relax. Now, look, like I said, Toronto fleeced them. But why did they fleece them? You know what I'm saying? Like, Brandon Ingram was brought in last year because of his offensive prowess, his ability to score from all 3 levels, right? But, Scotty was great offensively as well. But no one really thought that he was going to be super great offensively like he was. Everybody just thought he was going to be great defensively. But he was both. And so not only was there defensive slack on Brandon Ingram's side, but there was defensive production, great defensive production on Scotty Barnes' side. He's picking up the slack for everything he was doing. Even the offensive stinkers that he's had throughout the whole season. And I could tell you that he was on my fantasy team. It was bad. Okay? Now, anyways, this guy, he was, like I said, Brandon was brought in for his defensive prowess. And Grady Dick was on the team for his ability to shoot the 3-ball. And they didn't do their damn job. Granted, Brandon Ingram had, he was an all-star. He was a first-time all-star this year. And he brought them to, I'm not going to say he brought them, Scotty Barnes brought them to the playoffs. But he was a big part of it, obviously. But in the playoffs, he didn't show up at all. You could see the lack of playoff experience that the Toronto Raptors had. Because Brandon Ingram's never been to the playoffs. Scotty Barnes, he doesn't have a lot of playoff experience. The only people on there who had great playoff experience was, I believe, Mamu, but mostly RJ Barrett and IQ. And IQ and RJ Barrett, like RJ Barrett played a lot, but IQ didn't play as much because he was injured, right? And so, although Brandon Ingram didn't show up, they still brought the Cleveland Cavaliers to 7 games, and they lost in Game 7. And that's where all of the lack of experience really showed. And that's why they're bringing in Kawhi Leonard, is because that's where they faulted at. And they faulted at the offensive production by literally bringing in Brandon Ingram. But anyways, Kawhi is coming off of a career year. He's coming off of a year where we said that there was the unction going on in Los Angeles, at the start of the season with Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Brook Lopez, and I can't remember who was at I believe it was though Kawhi Leonard. But anyways, it was the unction, and they started off really, really poorly, like 2-14, something like that bad. And when everybody was in shambles because they thought that the Oklahoma City Thunder were gonna get the Clippers pick, which they don't own their picks until 2033, which is still crazy to me. We thought they were going to get maybe the number 1 overall pick, and nobody wanted that because they just got off of a championship and they were the favorites to win that year, and they were literally undefeated in the first, like, I believe 20 games of the season, which is craziness. And Kawhi Leonard brought it back. It was a switch flipped in his mind, and it was all around the time when the tree scandal happened. So maybe this is a reason, a byproduct of this whole tree scandal. He had to be moved from Los Angeles. Who know? No one knows, but I assume that's what's happening. because he was saying where he'd want to be traded. That would be either San Antonio or Toronto. Maybe he's looking to retire, but he also said he could sign an extension. So we don't know yet. But we're not even going to be looking into that, right? Kawhi, like I said, Kawhi is coming off a career year from dragging the Los Angeles Clippers all the way to the I believe the play-in tournament. They got to the play-in. They obviously lost. They didn't make it to the playoffs, but all in all, the Oklahoma City Thunder only got the seventh pick, and all whatever, it's fine, you know. Um, but coming into this off season, right? We didn't really know where the Clippers are going to go. We knew that they were looking for a lot younger players, but we didn't know if they were going to keep Kawhi Leonard to maybe mentor these players because they just drafted Keaton Vogler, who, in my eyes, obviously in college, he did play the 1 and the 2 sometimes. In my eyes, because of his height, he's a more 2 and 3 type of player. And who knows, learning off of Kawhi Leonard could be great. I would love to learn off Kawhi Leonard. I'm happy that me and the Toronto Raptors got him at the end of the day. Like this is greatness. But we can now see where the Clippers are planning to go with drafting Keaton Vogler and getting 2 firsts, a swap, and 2 seconds. It's great. But my only problem is that they don't own their pick until 2033. So they don't have the right to be bad because they're now banking off that the Kawhi Leonard trade doesn't work out for the Toronto Raptors, which it probably will because we just seen that he's able to do that. Now, granted, he is old, but what you need to understand is that they have Scotty Barnes. It's not like he's going to be, super, super overloaded with all the bearings that he needs to cover in the whole season. Scotty Barnes has his back. RJ Barrett has his back. IQ has his back as well. Jacoby Walters there. Jamal Shed just signed another deal with them. This is a good team that can pick up the offensive slack that Kawhi Leonard may not be able to bring every single night. Like I said, he's old, so he's not going to be able to bring, the greatest production on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. So if you're asking him to do all the offensive things that night, then Scotty Barnes is going to have to pick up his slack on the defensive side, which he can't. And if you want Kawhi to do a lot of the defensive production, then Scotty Barnes is going to have to pick up all the slack on the offensive side, and that's fine because not only do we have good defenders, shout out to Jacoby Walter, Jamal Shed, but we have also great offensive players, shout out to RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, and Jamal Shed. This is by far one of the most underrated trades. Obviously, it's headlines, big news, but this isn't going to get the coverage that I do think it should get because now the Toronto Raptors are championship contenders. They were good contenders last year. Obviously, they didn't make it out of the first round, but they had a commendable performance. Just like the Clippers 2 years ago against the Nuggets. They had a commendable performance. And I have to say this, I truly think that the Toronto Raptors could make it to the finals this year. I would put it on my soul. Actually, I take that back. I'll put it on my right pinky that they're going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay? And how do I know this? Because I believe in my heart, I believe in Canada. This is a great week for Canadians. We're doing amazing in the in the World Cup, and now we have Kawhi Leonard. We have our savior back. Like what? Like obviously this isn't gonna be 2019 Kawhi Leonard, but we had just seen RJ Barrett hit a shot in Game 6 to send it to Game 7, against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was reminiscent of the Kawhi Leonard, the dagger in 2019. So, look, all in all, what does this mean? The Toronto Raptors are getting an older Kawhi Leonard but he can still produce better than Brandon Ingram and Grady Dick combined. And he will be able to pick up and give that playoff experience that the Toronto Raptors were lacking, that was such lacking in Game 7 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So and as we all know, Kawhi Leonard is a Giannis type playoff riser every single time he enters the playoff, experience. So, like I said, I'm going to stand by what I said. I truly believe the Toronto Raptors are true title contenders next year. And yeah, I know I didn't talk much about the Clippers, but there's not much else I have to say other than now we know the direction that they're going in with all the young players. The only thought in my mind is they don't have the right to be. They don't have the not just that they don't have the right. They don't have they don't have the leeway to be bad. Because they're gonna get such a bad pick overall. They're gonna get the 30th pick because it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like if they're bad and the Oklahoma City Thunder get the 4th overall pick, that's really bad for the league overall, and that's bad for the Clippers because they're in the same conference. Anyways, I have nothing else to say about it. But I'm gonna rate these. For the Toronto Raptors, A plus. A plus 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 plus. All of Canada is joyous. We are happy. I love you. I love you, Toronto Raptors. Now, for the Clippers, I'm gonna give this. I know a lot of people's a lot of people have been hating on them. I'm gonna give them a B because I do think that this secures more of the future, the more of the younger generation that they're trying to build. Brandon Ingram may not be the greatest player that you want leading that, being the oldest player on the team. Not now. I don't think he's the oldest player now, but he may be one of the older players on the team now due to all the young players being there. But who knows? He may be able to bring that veteran prowess that they so desperately need. But yeah, I know there's a shorter video, and I know a couple videos have been shorter, or the last video was short as well. But yeah, I'm just getting back in the swing of things. All in all, that's all I gotta say. I do want to leave off with one last thing though. Yeah, this is probably some of the best news that someone could hear, but it's that let me show you. Sham God is the Pelicans Summer League head coach. Shout to God Sham God and Summer League. The Pelicans have your number, so you better watch out. We'll leave it here. Well, I love making videos and all that for you guys. For whoever watches it. But yeah, I'll see y'all later. Peace.